At the highest levels of YouTube, at the very least, when you start cracking into the millions, a feat I imagine I'll never see, it's nice to see what it took to get there, to those dizzying heights that most of us can only dream of. As impressive as 60 million views is, well over 700,000 likes, and 2,290,000 subscribers. These are all big numbers. There's a smaller one than any of those that really made my jaw drop and hit the floor. Put a pin in that. Star Wars Theories, I'm gonna play a clip here.
Guys, how are you? So, episode 1 was by far the most amazing, collaborative, and fun thing that I've ever done. It's been over a year now, and the fan film, episode 1 at least, is almost about 16 million views at the time of making this video. And I couldn't be more indebted to you all for getting me to this point where I can make a fan film like that for the community and for the channel and for you guys and all that. So I feel truly blessed that you guys appreciate the content and have been watching and given me a career and a place on YouTube and something to really pour my passions into since I was a little kid and now professionally as a adult, I guess you could say.
The video in question is called Vader Episode 1, Shards of the Past, a Star Wars fan film. What fan projects can and can't get away with. Before the parent company steps in and puts the brakes on things, I found it very informative, if not heartbreaking, for those of you familiar with Jan Animations and the cease and desist order they received from Hasbro. I was really curious what Lucasfilms, or more likely Disney, might be willing to allow or not allow with Star Wars.
So over the last year, one of the main questions that I always get is, are you going to do another one? Are you going to make episode 2? Are you going to make episode 3? Originally, it was supposed to be a 5-part series, and in this year, I've gotten countless emails and everything about big companies, independent people just coming to me saying, hey, we want to, fund episode 2, we want to pay for it, but we have a product that we'd like to show in the film. And the biggest one of those was a company based in Europe and in New York that came to me, and they wanted to actually fund the entire thing, all 5 episodes. They wanted to make, a 2.5-hour movie of my story and pay millions, a couple million to finish it. And I was elated, man. I was really excited. I spoke to my guy at Lucasfilm, and I just wanted to make sure everything was all right. Didn't want to go ahead and do something like that when it's a no-no, right? Or get shut down later on. He checked with the legal team, and it's a no-go. It didn't happen. You guys know about that story. I made a video about it.
The conventional wisdom being the bigger the attention or the project, specifically if money starts getting involved, the less likely a fan project will be allowed to continue. Again, I like Star Wars Theory. It's a great channel like many Star Wars fan channels. But then I heard this line.
I spoke to my guy at Lucasfilm.
My guy at Lucasfilms. I'm very much an outsider when it comes to the Star Wars fan channels and what Lucasfilms will let fly, and more importantly, and the more important and confusing fact, wait, Lucasfilms has any stroke left? Didn't Disney give George Lucas $2 billion for the rights to Star Wars in its entirety? I mean, the fan video is on YouTube. It exists and there's a fairly big spotlight on it. I don't want to say I think that Star Wars Theories is lying, but someone from the outside looking in, it does sound like the guy that you're talking to at a major company might not have the legal standing that you require at this point. In addition, you were offered $10 million to make this project. Again, I think you should subscribe, watch, follow, all that good stuff to Star Wars Theory. Super talented guy. My respect for this guy is off the charts. Specifically, when I found out how much he sank into this fan project. Till now, I've been familiar with things like buying a computer good enough to edit, quote-unquote buying editing software, buying artwork for a video, or maybe even a video camera. Lesser projects can end up costing a couple $100 with no promise for a return on your investment. Case in point, the microphone I'm using right now, I believe I bought for about $125. My Audio-Technica AT2035, which I don't believe they make anymore. Star Wars Theory's Patreon is going to be at the top of the description and the comments. And I believe that there's a goddamn good reason for that.
Lucasfilm's IP, I guess Disney's IP now, and they wouldn't want another company benefiting off of, their characters. So my guy at Lucasfilm said that you're going to have to make episode 2 if you want to, the same way you did episode 1, and so that means out of my pocket. So in this year I've been thinking, and I'm like, alright, you know what? I spent $160,000 of my own money on episode 1, and I didn't make a dime off it. That was the agreement that I had with Lucasfilm, to not crowdfund and to not monetize the video, so not to put ads on the video. And I did that, and they really appreciated it. So, you know, they gave me a media badge to Celebration, because they're like, you know, we appreciate you following the rules and all that. And that was great. It was cool. Since then, I've seen other fan films, you know, go against the grain and all that, but the rules that have been laid out for me will be honored.
I want to be clear. I love people who make money online. I love how much it pisses off fans who feel you don't deserve the right to make money reviewing or analyzing or criticizing or animating, making something derivative enough to gain a profit. And anyone who does it for free should have a Mars wrapper tied permanently around their head. Never do anything for free that you can get paid for. That said, Star Wars Fan Theory had a vision. Someday, if I have a kid, if he ever finds out that Star Wars Theory spent $160,000, I'm going to tell him, you can respect that. I respect that, but don't ever follow that. For those of you guys who believe in their heart of hearts, YouTube is just a wealth of money that Star Wars Theory has about 525 patrons, and why that amount is hidden, the donation range is from $1 to $250. I always like to go back to Digibro's Patreon for an example, because he, at least if nothing else, has the balls not to hide it like so many other people. He has 935 patrons. He brings in about $4,000 a month. If we assume that Star Wars Theory brought in $6,000 with 400 less people, that would be $72,000 a year. Keep in mind, tax-wise, you gotta keep 1/4 of that aside to pay Uncle Sam. Not to mention Star Wars Theory, or who else has to pay for editing, acting, or otherwise needed to be compensated by him to get this film made. Now I understand, despite the 16 million viewed video not being monetized, at a glance, he can put out somewhere between 6 to 7 videos a week with a conservative average of 100K views on average. So let's assume, let's say that each $1 or each 1,000 views is $1. I've heard this suggestion from Monkey Jones as well as Boogie2988. You could choose to take those as valid sources or not. Let's take it as a rough estimate. That's about $600 a week, with about $3,200 a month. About $38,400 a year, with 1/4 saved for taxes. So between, if my math is correct here, the Patreon and the Google AdSense, that's about $82,000 a year. Let's round up for $100,000. Let's pretend that Star Wars Theories gets a ton of sponsors. Let's go up to $100,000. Or he's very clever with his tax write-offs. Let's be super generous. Judging by all of that, this man gave you guys a year and a half plus of his life to you for free. I did all this because watching this man's masterpiece, so to speak, is based on his video My Final Decision with the channel, where Star Wars Theory explained this whole process. Imagine if this man spent $160,000 and this project went belly up. It's one thing to watch a company like, say, Warner Brothers or Disney, or insert a random big name studio here, lose money. It's a whole nother to really see a guy try and put himself in potentially financial ruin. Like, $160,000 is a house. That's a life. I say this with as much respect as I can muster. What a mad lad. I'll tell you this, I don't have a deal with Lucasfilms or Disney. Reviewer critique is protected under fair use, and I'm monetizing the hell out of this video. And I'm gonna tell you people, go donate to Star Wars Theories if you want to see more of this project, because he can't crowdfund it. But there's nothing stopping me from promoting him. Right off the bat, in Shards of the Past, despite the video being 16 minutes and 18 seconds, the project wraps up at about 12 minutes 48. There's no extra footage after the credits. So yes, the $160,000 is just north of half of a regular TV episode. The two focal points, with no if and or buts about it, fall upon Darth Vader or the Emperor, aka Darth Sidious. I found that Darth Vader to be more than good enough not to break my immersion, certainly more than I got from watching the other Darth Lord of the Sith. On the other hand, for Emperor Palpatine, I have seen better representation for Darth Sidious on Robot Chicken.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
That said, there's a wonderful brief explanation I'm going to borrow from Razor Fist from his Star Wars Force Awakens review.
Even the Abrams-filleting fuckwits over at Red Letter Media didn't dare level their vacuous criticisms in the direction of Mr. McDiarmid, and the reason why is simple. He nailed that shit. No vapid YouTube troglodyte is about to proffer armchair acting advice to a 40-year veteran of the Shakespearean stage.
Yeah, I know it's not fair to ask a fan project to replace Darth Sidious properly, but then you didn't have to have that character suck up about one half of the spotlight in the film or project.
Everything. Foolish boy. You grieve for the dead wife of an insolent Jedi. Your precious Padme's fate was your choice. Just as your fate is mine.
I mean, it sounds like a wheezing, poorly acted out dungeon master trying to do the Darth Lord of the Sith. And speaking of wheezing, in this video, Darth Vader choked Darth Sidious for well over a minute standing, say about a minute 24. So far, that's about 1/6 to 1/7 of this video, hearing a poorly acted out Palpatine being force choked. And when I say I felt uncomfortable, I don't mean I felt triggered. I felt it went on too long. And I've never seen or heard or watched it in a movie, cartoon, or comic book, or anywhere else where force choking took anywhere near that long. Keep in mind, this is on YouTube that's competing with everything else so that people don't click off it. And I don't know many Star Wars fans that this is going to keep spellbound and or mesmerized during this period, and it's right at the start. Now, not all of this is doom and gloom. Now, you can clearly see where the money went into with some of the visuals. The stormtroopers look like stormtroopers, the officers look like officers, Princess Padme or Panda Bear or Padababa.
Padamame or Panda Bear or whatever the hell her name is.
Look, she looks like she's supposed to. I like seeing Darth Vader be vulnerable. I know enough Star Wars lore that there wasn't anything insulting to the continuity. There's one thing.
I have no such wish, Master.
Pathetic! A mighty Sith Lord crippled by melancholy and indecision, all due to the attachments of a Jedi.
There is no attachment. Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Did you? Yet Skywalker's powers dwarfed yours, did they not? No. Rise, Lord Vader. It is the way of the Sith to destroy all who stand in our way to power. To eliminate our rivals, is it not? Who stands in your way, Lord Vader? Who holds you back? Keeps you subjected and decrepit within that armor? Anyone? If so, only your hate will eradicate him. Use it.
Was Lord Sidious this suicidal? He literally throws out his arms with the lightsaber in Vader's hand, daring him to use it right on his chest. Now again, in the comics, Darth Vader post-Mustafar, you know, the one who's burnt up like a roasted Cheeto, has become suicidal. He's beside himself.
Was that behind Darth Vader's menacing mask was a broken man, a man who had lost everything. His best friend, mother, wife, and children all gone, his dreams crushed, and his purpose corrupted. In his early years as the Emperor's enforcer, Vader constantly thought about Padme and his love for her, especially when he went through extreme pain, like during his suit maintenances. He also frequently dreamed about an alternative life where he killed Palpatine and saved the Jedi from their demise. In his dream, his wife was still alive and well, and he himself was now the leader of the Jedi Order. In this alternate reality, his son was born and named Jyn Skywalker, perhaps as a way to honor the fallen Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn. The Republic was united again, and Padme was the newly elected Supreme Chancellor, wishing to bring peace to the entire galaxy. Such emotional dreams were too much for Vader to handle, who would wake up screaming at what he could have been.
This is seen in many comics. Darth Sidious has set Darth Vader down to explain to him the path of the Sith, the rule of two. One to embody the power, one to covet it, or crave it, you get the idea. I would assume this is an extreme interpretation of that scene. As with handling extreme interpretations to make those scenes memorable to legendary, it falls upon the actors to give those lines and interpretations weight. Darth Nasal here doesn't even come close. Do I recommend that you spend 12 minutes and 48 seconds, if for no other reason, to see what $160,000 will buy you in YouTube fame, at least on the high average? I am interested in seeing the second installment in Star Wars Theory, and what will he do when he directs the project himself. I hope he doesn't go bust. I'm honestly a bigger fan of his normal videos. That said, see you next time.